adds that state will not condone greedy and unscrupulous businessmen who are just after profit margins and not the welfare and well-being of consumers. Businessmen are advised to strictly adhere to the rules of engagement in the interest of their businesses, the consumers, and the state. The release ends. Members of the Gambia Women's Federation France chapter Monday held talks with the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Dr. Aissatou Njie Sedi, at the State House. The visiting delegation is expected to, among other things, meet with officials of the National Women's Federation during their stay in the country. That story by Mama J. shall air in our 10 p.m. bulletin. The Minister of the Environment, Parks and Wildlife has delivered a televised address to mark World Environment Day. This year's celebration is premised on the theme, Think, Eat Safe, which encourage people to become more aware of the environmental impact of the food choices they make. Here's an excerpt of the minister's statement.
For this year's celebration is Think, Eat, Save, Reduce your food print. It underscores an anti-food waste and food loss campaign that encourages you to reduce your footprint. According to the UN Food and Agricultural Organization known as the FAO, every year 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted. This is equivalent to the same amount produced in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. Coastal, and as it stands, at the same time, 1 in every 7 people in the world go to bed hungry, and more than 20,000 children under the age of 5 die daily from hunger. Given this enormous imbalance in lifestyles and the resultant devastating effects on the environment, this year's theme, Think, Eat, Save, encourages you to become more aware of the environmental impact of food choices you make and empowers you to make informed decisions considering the crop failure in 2011. Meanwhile, climate change with ensuing water shortage, desertification, soil and vegetation degradation lead not only to depletion of the natural resources, but also threatened the social and economic development of the Gambia and the world at large.
The Minister of the Environment, Parks and Wildlife on World Environment Day there. We'll take a first break. We shall be back with news from beyond our borders.
Warga tabara ngi ni warga tabara waaw mom la de warga wi sel na set na wóor na amut pëndax xam nga ko de te warga wi ni lañ ko defare nga ne ma way baal ma dolli champ bob ba cash bi gëna fess way muy xolal li muy sanni du li may waxate ngi ni gane nap télé lo gagné lo gagné yow da nga xamul ni warga bi ni mu sellé té neex xottu gi moko gëna neex mën nga gaña télé waaw mën nga gaña saaku ceeb mba betelub dawlin ngene mën gaña welo ngene ma té li ci gëna neex it waaw mën nga ca gaña radio warga tabaara mo gën ci warga yi gëna neex ci warga yi gëna silwisi ci warga yi buru warga yi buri warga yi
warga tabaara bi nak ku ko bëgg fi ci Gambi da ngay dem fuñ naan 18 pictin warga tabaha buru warga yi.
Welcome back. And elsewhere in Africa, Malian politicians are calling for military intervention in Kidal, while MNLA rebels hold sway. The Islamist rebels, according to residents, are violent against black people in the community after a series of attacks, which led to thousands fleeing to Gao. As we hear in this report by Canal France International, Malian troops are on their way to tackle the already dangerous situation, which has the power to trigger ethnic conflict.
On the streets of Bamako, the scene may appear calm, but the situation is tense following information coming out of Kidal in the northeast. A number of daily papers published Tuesday called on the Malian people to make no concessions to the MNLA Tuaregs, accused of violence against blacks in the contested city. Some people are calling it ethnic cleansing. There are no blacks or mixed-race people in the streets of Kidal right now. People are staying home. And according to our information, some people left the city at night on foot to look for trucks to take them to Gao. The Kidal Circle Council and the Northern Mali Residents Collective have criticized the actions of the MNLA, the Azawad National Liberation Movement. The two groups believe it is a trap by the Tuareg separatists to unleash ethnic conflict in Mali. What they are really looking for is to drag the people from other cities in Mali to go looking for reprisals and settling of accounts. We must, above all, avoid falling into this trap.
Il faut à tout prix éviter de tomber dans ce piège.
To put an end to the harassment of the black minority in Kidal, a number of Malian politicians are calling for military action. Bamako has just announced that Malian soldiers are heading for Kidal, ruled by the MNLA. That strengthens the very clear position taken by the FDR, the United Front for Saving Democracy and the Republic. The Malian army must be present in Kidal. We don't understand how the French army and the Chadian army are in Kidal, while the black population is being attacked there. This is outrageous. Negotiations between the MNLA and Malian government have been taking place in Ouagadougou. On Monday, the Burkina Faso mediator criticized the incidents in Kidal. Jibril Bassoulé called on all parties to abstain from acts of violence.
Guinea's Prime Minister has begun talks with opposition leaders after his opponents laid down demands ahead of the legislative elections set for June 30th. And troops from Sierra Leone have left for Mogadishu to join African Union forces in their fight against insurgents. For more on these and other stories, we turn to this World News Roundup.
Prime Minister and leaders of the opposition have opened talks, attended by UN-appointed facilitator Said Djinnit. The opposition laid down 3 demands prior to legislative elections set for June 30th. These concern the electoral register, the vote of Guineans living abroad, and the way the Electoral Commission functions. Legislative elections in Guinea are 2 years overdue. Recent demonstrations calling for free elections all degenerated into violence. On board this plane are troops from Sierra Leone's armed forces on their way to Mogadishu to join AMISOM, the African Union mission in Somalia. AMISOM is fighting the Al-Shabaab militant Islamist group. Sierra Leone had its own particularly gruesome 10-year-long civil war that benefited from the presence of neighboring countries. Today, it is stable enough to assist in dealing with conflict elsewhere. Vehicles carrying arms and cases of ammunition were intercepted on the Chadian border with the Central African Republic. They were handed to the Central African authorities at a ceremony in Bangui, attended by the Chadian ambassador and the head of the Central African Republic's interim government. The intervention was partly to show the efficiency of cross-border patrols, which were reinforced since President Bozizé was ousted. Oscar Pistorius made a brief appearance in a South African court on Tuesday for the first time since being released on bail. The court postponed the pre-trial hearing to August 19 to allow police to wrap up their probe into his shooting of his girlfriend. Pistorius, a Paralympian champion, will remain free on bail till then. In a macabre coincidence, his next court appearance will fall on the same day that his slain lover would have turned 30.
A suicide bomber has killed 2 foreign soldiers and 10 children who were heading home after school in Afghanistan. The attack targeted NATO and Afghan forces. Syria's civil war is more than 2 years old, with reports pegging the number of dead at some 80,000. But more worrying for the region is the spillovers of the conflict. Lebanon has felt much of that threat, and as we hear in this report, the latest casualties included 6 people.
motorcycle killed 2 foreign soldiers and 10 children who were heading home after school in eastern Afghanistan Monday. 1 policeman was also killed and 15 other children were wounded in the attack, which targeted NATO and Afghan forces in Patkia province. The attack came